My brother Bob, my next brother, was 7 years older than I was. And he was a semi-pro magician in his sort of spare time and rejoiced in the name the Great Navette. Until at school I took French and learned that it meant the Great White Turnip. So he quickly changed his stage name to Bob Carlyle. And my other brother, Walter, ran, in addition to having a day job, he ran the local dance band. And so on any given night in our old house in Brampton in Cumbria, there was a young lady being sawn in half in the back bedroom and a band practice in the attic. So I thought I'd better try and do something. And at the age of 9, I bought a little ventriloquist doll for the princely sum of 3 guineas and practiced in front of the mirror. So that was the start of my yen to be in show business.
And I guess you obviously loved it. You were doing it all the time from 9 years and up. But
Yes.
your family were probably saying, we'll get a proper job as well, just in case.
That's what my dad said. He had me articled to a firm of accountants. So I studied and took my exams and became an accountant because he'd seen the act, you see.
I guess you got into television in a way by chance, ventriloquism on the radio and so on, but Border Television knocked on the door, really, didn't they, in the early 60s?
By that time, I had progressed from doing ventriloquism on radio to comparing shows, and then I did some telly for the BBC. In fact, in the late 50s, I was the host
Well, you
from
did
the north
Come
of
Dancing,
England
didn't you?
for Come Dancing,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there was a young man who used to sit in the south of England comparing that end of the show called Michael Aspel, and he's done quite well as well.
He's done all right,
really?
hasn't he? Yeah. But in 1961, Border Television came along, and
Yes.
and that really opened up whole new areas for you, didn't it?
It changed my life, yes. I packed up the accountancy and the ventriloquism and became a sort of presenter interviewer on Border Television, which was the smallest of the ITV companies. So it gave a lot of experience because you didn't get pigeonholed. You know, one day you're interviewing the bishop, the next day is the football manager, the next day the politicians and so on. So you learned a lot in a short time. And having been an accountant, working with a new small company, they asked me if I would also organised the schedules and the budgets and that sort of thing. So I then became production manager quite quickly. I mean, I didn't get any more money for it, but I got a title in a little office. And I slowly moved through the company to assistant head of production, then head of production, controller of programmes, and finished up with a seat on the board of directors. So I was kind of the local lad who made good, from the newsroom to the boardroom.
I was going to say, you were and are Border Television, really.
Well, pretty well, yes. I did most of the important things for them over those 60s and 70s, the years you mentioned. Yeah.
And you did all sorts of different programmes for them, not just in this country, but filming abroad as well. And then you actually came up with the idea to try a 13-part series of game shows.
That's right, Mr. and Mrs.
Which was Mr. and Mrs. So was the concept and the whole idea of the game yours as well?
No, it wasn't. It was a gentleman called Roy Ward Dixon, an Englishman who went to live in Canada as a child because he had a weak chest. And he spent his time devising, first of all, newspaper competitions, and then radio, because television hadn't started then. And then he graduated to television shows, and he devised quite a number of shows that some of our listeners might remember, like Abracadabra, Cuckoo in the Nest, Try for 10. Yes, several shows, and Mr. and Mrs., of course, was one of them. And he was a friend, and I bought the rights for Mr. and Mrs. from him for 13 weeks. And I thought it'd last for 13 weeks. We did it for 13 weeks, once a week, of course, in those days. Then it came off the air after Christmas in 1967. And the letters flowed in, like, when's it coming back? Can we be on the show? So we brought it back as a local show in the region in the north that I talked about. And then in 1973, the powers that be at ITV discovered that there were people alive at 12 o'clock lunchtime. Prior to that, television had only ever started at 4 o'clock in the afternoon with Bill and Ben and the children's programmes. So they circulated the regional companies and said, have you got a programme that would sit nicely during the afternoon, from midday through to 5:30. So we submitted Mr. and Mrs., and they liked it and took it.
Yeah,
it lasted until about 1986, 87, I think.
What was the secret then, Derek? Why is it still regarded with such fondness, and why was it so successful? Because it was a fairly simple idea, but
the most simple
loved
idea
it.
you'll ever think of, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it must be the most copied idea. Well, I had two simple philosophies, Martin. One was to laugh with people and never at them. And the second one was to try and make the couples the stars of the show. I mean, I'm not a Bob Monkhouse or a Bruce Forsyth. I don't do 10 minutes of stand-up comedy. And I just got on with the programme and listened to their funny stories, and there were lots and lots of them. And I think the other ingredient, the important ingredient, was what I call the over-the-garden wall quality. Because everybody is naturally curious, aren't they? If you're in a pub or in a train or in a restaurant or whatever, sitting in the garden on a summer's day, and somebody says something, you instinctively lean over to catch, how the partner's going to reply to that. Like, imagine you're in the garden on a summer's day when we get one, and you hear the lady of the house next door shouting, "Fred, I thought you told me you were going to cut the lawn and weed the flower beds this afternoon." Now, everything goes quiet in your house, doesn't it? You all lean across and think, I wonder how Fred's going to talk his way out of that. And I think that was the Mr. and Mrs. Secret, because the questions I asked are all questions that people have experienced. Ordinary, everyday happenings and occurrences and likes and dislikes. And I think everyone's curious about somebody else in this world.
Thanks again for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please click on the like button, ring that notification bell to be informed of any future videos, and above all, make sure you subscribe. Thank you.